Hello and welcome to another Read With Me session. I'm yours truly, Isabel Bedell. I'm here to read a brand new book for the month of December. And it is our handy dandy good to great book here. Good to Great by Jim Collins. He's the co-author of the best-selling Built to Last. It's a great book. This is a book for business owners and entrepreneurs and people that are looking to reach new heights within their business. And if you are new to this channel, my name is Isabel. I'm one of the co-founders here of Billionaire. It is a company where we focus on education, we focus on personal and financial freedom, and one of the tools that we help leaders like yourself to achieve personal and financial freedom is through books, is through reading. Leaders are readers, and we honestly believe that this new habit that we've instilled of reading 22 books per year, okay, 2 books a month, has instilled a whole new amazing new habit within us that has helped not only our cognitive mind, but also our conscious development and being able to become a better version of ourselves, not only for our life, but for our businesses as well. So I focus on the financial freedom side, and Vanessa Black, sweetheart of mine, my wife, she's in the other channel and she is focusing on the personal freedom side. So she's right now reading Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And wow, that book is, talk about vulnerability. That book is amazing. Make sure to check it out as well. When it comes to financial freedom, I like to focus on books that have practical knowledge, but actually have depth to them. So we've read so many different books this year, and one of my favorite books that we just finished is The Compound Effect. It's a fundamental book that every business owner or entrepreneur, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're an employee, if you're running a business, if you have some kind of vision for you to help others, or get ahead in life and not have to worry so much, that book is designed for that. Now, this book is going to be more technical. Okay. It feels heavy. It has some weight to it, but the cool thing about this book, it's not fully all of it. Like, this is all of the book that we're going to be reading. The rest of the book is proof of that everything that we're going to be reading is actually legit. That's why I love Jim Collins. He had a huge team of like 20 people help him with this book, the creation of this book. He literally has a research team dedicated for this book, and it took 15,000 hours of work to the project, okay, to get this book into life. And this is a work of art. If you value, quality stuff, quality material stuff, quality relationships, quality time, quality information, this is the type of book that will just shine light into all of that. And right now, more than ever, we as business owners need quality. There's so much crap out there. Like, if you just go on YouTube for a little bit, there's so much information out there that most of it is just regurgitated nonsense that people just look up, use some AI, and then regurgitate it back to you in a different way. And that's how they make their money. But this channel is dedicated to using books that have been proven over time to actually help you increase your business, increase your life, increase your personal freedom, increase your personal freedom, financial freedom, and all in between. Okay. Well, with that introduction, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to start this amazing book. We're on chapter 1, Good is the Enemy of Great. Wow, that's a strong start. Okay, let's get into it. Make sure to get your highlighter and make sure that you're good to go, okay? Let's start off with a quote by Burl Markham. That's what makes death so hard. It's unsatisfied curiosity. Shoot. Good is the enemy to great. And that is one of the key reasons why we have so little that becomes great. We don't have great schools, principally because we have good schools. We don't have great government, principally because we have good government. Few people attain great lives in large part because it is just so easy to settle for a good life. The vast majority of companies ever become great precisely because the vast majority become quite good, and that is their problem. This point became piercingly clear to me in 1996 when I was having dinner with a group of thought leaders gathered for a discussion about organizational performance. Ooh, great topic. Bill Meehan, the managing director of the San Francisco office of McKinsey & Company, leaned over and casually confided, "You know, Jim, we love Built to Last around here. You and your co-author did a very fine job on the research and writing, and unfortunately, it's useless." Curious, I asked him to explain. He mentioned the companies you wrote about were for the most part always great, he said. They never had to turn themselves from good companies into great companies. They had parents like David Packard and George Merck who shaped the character of greatness from early on. But what about the vast majority of companies that wake up partway through life and realize that they're good, but not great? I now realize that Meehan was exaggerating for effect with the useless comment. But this essential observation was correct. The truly great companies, for the most part, have always been great, and the vast majority of good companies remain just that, good, but not great. Indeed, Meehan's comment proved to be an invaluable gift as it planted the seed of a question that became the basis of this entire book. Namely, can a good company become great? And if so, how? Is the disease of just being good incurable? 5 years after that fateful dinner, we can now say without a question that good to great does happen. And we've learned much about the underlying variable that make it happen. Inspired by Bill Meehan's challenge, my research team and I embarked on a 5-year research effort, a journey to explore the inner workings of good to great. To quickly grasp the concept of the book, look at the chart on page 2. In essence, we identified companies that made the leap from good results to great results and sustained those results for at least 15 years. We compared these companies to a carefully selected control group of comparison companies that failed to make the leap, or if they did, they failed to sustain it. We then compared the good to great companies to the comparison companies to discover the essential and distinguishing factors at work. The good to great examples that made the final cut in the study attained extraordinary results, averaging cumulative stock return 6.9 times the general market in 15 years following their transition points. To put that into perspective, General Electric, considered by many to be the best-led company in America at the end of the 20th century, outperformed the market by 2.8 times over the 15 years of 1985 to 2000. And furthermore, if you invested $1 in a mutual fund of the good to great companies in 1965, holding each company at the general market rate until the date of transition, and simultaneously invested $1 in a general market stock fund, your $1 in the good to great fund taken out on January 1st, 2000 would have multiplied 471 times compared to the 56-fold increase in the market. These are remarkable numbers and made all the more remarkable when you consider the fact that they come from companies that had previously been so utterly unremarkable. And consider just one case, Walgreens. For over 40 years, Walgreens had bumped along as a very large company, more or less tracking the general market. Then in 1975, seemingly out of nowhere, bang, Walgreens began to climb and climb and climb and climb. And it just kept climbing. From December 31st, 1975 to January 1st, 2000, $1 invested in Walgreens beat $1 invested in technology superstar Intel by nearly 2 times, General Electric by nearly 5 times, Coca-Cola by nearly 8 times in the general stock market, including the NASDAQ stock run-up of the 1999 by over 15 times. How on earth did a company with such a long history of being nothing special transform itself into an enterprise that outperforms some of the best led organizations of the world? And why was Walgreens able to make the leap when other companies in the same industry with the same opportunities and similar resources, such as Eckerd, did not make the leap? This single case captures the essence of our quest. And this book is not about Walgreens or any of the specific companies that we studied. It is about the question, can a good company become a great company? And if so, how? In our search for timeless, universal answers that can be applied by any organization. Our 5-year quest yielded many insights, a number of them surprising and quite contrary to the conventional wisdom, but one giant conclusion stands above the others. We believe that almost any organization can substantially improve its stature and performance, perhaps even become great, if it consensuously applies the framework of ideas we've uncovered. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to tap into the framework, okay? The framework. Good to great. How to go from good to great. And this is a framework. And I purposely chose this book for the month of December because we're heading into a whole new year. This is typically when people get lazy. This is typically when people are like, oh, let me just, get comfy with all this like holiday cheer and blankets and hot cocoa. Okay. I'm here to break it to you. If you are just focused on that and you haven't set up your financial freedom, you haven't set up your personal freedom correctly, it will smack you across the face halfway through the next year. If you make it halfway through the next year. Okay. You have to build and start planting the seeds for them to blossom into the new year. And this is one of the greatest examples on how to do so. Okay, stay with me. This book is dedicated to teaching what we've learned. The remainder of this introductory chapter tells the story of our journey. It outlines our research methods and previews the key findings. In chapter 2, we launched headlong into the findings themselves, beginning with one of the most provocative of the whole study, level 5, which is leadership. Undaunted curiosity. People often ask, what motivates you to undertake these huge research projects? It's a good question. The answer is curiosity. There's nothing I find more exciting than picking a question that I don't know the answer to and embarking on a quest for answers. It's deeply satisfying to climb into that boat like Lewis and Clark and head west, saying, we don't know what we'll find when we get there, but we'll be sure to let you know when we get back. Here's the abbreviated story of this particular odyssey of curiosity. Phase 1, the search. With the question in hand, I began to assemble a team of researchers. When I use we throughout this book, I am referring to the research team, and all 21 people worked on this project at key points, usually in teams of 4 to 6 at a time. Our first task was to find companies that showed the good to great pattern exemplified in the chart of page 2, and we launched a 6-month death march of financial analysis, looking for companies that showed the following basic patterns. 15-year cumulative stock returned at or below the general stock market, punctuated by transition point and cumulative returns at least 3 times the market over the next 15 years. We then picked 15 years because it would transcend one-hit wonders and lucky breaks. And you can't just be lucky for 15 years and would exceed the average tenure of most chief executive officers, helping us to separate companies from companies that just happen to have a single great leader. We picked 3 times the market because it exceeded the performance of widely acknowledged great companies. And for perspective, a mutual fund of the following marquee sets of companies beat the market by only 2.5 times over the years of 1985 to 2000. 3M, Boeing, Coca-Cola, GE, Hewlett-Packard, Intel, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Motorola, Pepsi, Procter & Gamble, Walmart, and Walt Disney. Not a bad set to beat. So all the companies that the team, the 21 people on this team were researching beat the standard. These companies, 3M, Coca-Cola, Hewlett-Packard, Walmart, Disney, Procter & Gamble, Pepsi, Johnson & Johnson, like that's just the standard. They beat the market, okay, by 2 to 5 times. Okay. What they're looking at is like more. Okay. From an initial universe of companies that appeared in the Fortune 500 in the years of 1965 to 1995, we systematically searched and sifted, eventually finding 11 good to great examples. 11. I put a detailed description of our search in Appendix 1, and then, however, in a couple of points deserve brief mention here. First, a company had to demonstrate the good to great patterns independent of its industry. And if it's the whole industry showed the same pattern, we dropped the company. Second, we debated whether we should use additional selection criteria beyond cumulative stock returns, such as impact on society and employee welfare. And we eventually decided to limit our selection to the good to great results pattern, as we could not conceive any legitimate and consistent method for selecting on the other variables without introducing our own biases. And in the last chapter, however, I addressed the relationship between corporate values and enduring great companies. But the focus of this particular research effort is on the very specific question of how to turn a good organization into one that produces sustained great results. And at first glance, we were surprised by the list. Who would have thought that Fannie Mae would beat companies like GE and Coca-Cola? Or that Walgreens could be Intel? The surprising list, a dour group, would be hard to find, taught us a key lesson right up front. It is possible to turn good into great in the most unlucky of situations. This became the first of many surprises that led us to reevaluate our thinking about corporate greatness. Phase number 2, compared to what? Next, we took perhaps the most important step of the entire research effort, contrasting the good to great companies to a carefully selected set of comparison companies. The crucial question in our study is not what did the good to great companies share in common? Rather, the crucial question is what did the good to great companies share in common that distinguished them from the comparison companies? And think of it this way. Suppose you wanted to study what makes gold medal winners in the Olympic Games. What makes gold medal winners in the Olympic Games? And if you studied the gold medal winners by themselves, you'd find that they all had coaches. But if you looked at the athletes that made the Olympic team but never won a medal, that you'd find they'd also have coaches. So the key question is, what systematically distinguishes gold medal winners from those who never won a medal? That's a good question. And this is all about asking the good questions, the right questions. We selected 2 sets of comparison companies. The first set consisted of direct comparisons, companies that were in the same industry as the good to great companies with the same opportunities and similar resources at the same transitions, but showed no leap from good to great. The second consisted of the unsustained comparisons, companies that made a short-term shift from good to great, but failed to maintain the trajectory to address the question of sustainability in all. This gave us a total study of the set of 28 companies, 11 good to great companies and 11 direct comparisons and 6 unsustained comparisons. Here's phase 3, inside the black box. We then turned our attention to a deep analysis of each case. We collected all articles published in the 28 companies dating back 50 years or more, and we systematically coded all the material into categories such as strategy, technology, leadership, and so forth. And then we interviewed most of the good to great executives who held key positions of responsibility during the transition area. We also initiated a wide range of qualitative and quantitative analysis, looking at everything from acquisitions to executive compensation, from business strategy to corporate culture, from layoffs to leadership style, from financial ratios to management turnover. And then when all was said and done, the total project consumed 10.5 people years of effort. We read and systematically coded nearly 6,000 articles, generated more than 2,000 pages of interview transcripts, and created 384 million bytes of computer data. We came to think of our research effort as akin to looking inside a black box. Each step along the way was like installing another light bulb to shed light into the inner workings of our good to great process. This is the diagram that he's talking about. All the work that they're doing is a black box. Good results, black box, and then that light at the end of the tunnel, that's great results. And that's where their focus is here. With data in hand, we began a series of weekly research debates. For each of the 20 companies, members of the research team and I would systematically read all articles, analysis, interviews, and research coding. I could make a presentation to the team on that specific company, drawing potential conclusions and asking questions. Then we would debate, disagree, pound on tables, raise our voices, pause, reflect, debate, and some more, pause and think, discuss, resolve, question, and debate again, yet again, about what it all means. It is important to understand that we developed all of the concepts in this book by making empirical deductions directly from the data. We did not begin this project with a theory to test or prove. We sought to build a theory from the ground up, derived directly from the evidence. The core of our method was a systematic process of contrasting the good to great examples to the comparisons and always asking what's the difference. We also made particular notes of dogs that did not bark. In the Sherlock Holmes classic adventure of Silver Blaze, Holmes identified the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime as a key clue. And it turns out that the dog did nothing in the nighttime, and that, according to Holmes, was the curious incident, which led him to the conclusion that the prime suspect must have been someone who knew the dog well. In our study, we didn't find the dogs that might have expected to bark but didn't, but it turned out to be some of the best clues of the inner workings of good to great. And when we stepped inside the black box and turned on the light bulbs, we were frequently just as astonished as what we did not see as what we did. So for example, here's a couple points that they found within their research that really just blew their minds, because it was like random little bits that changed the whole perspective. Larger than life celebrity. Look at this. Larger than life celebrity leaders who ride in from the outside are negatively correlated with taking a company from good to great. 10 of the 11 good to great CEOs came from inside the company, whereas the comparison companies tried outside CEOs 6 times more often. Ooh, 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 ooh. I hope you heard that right. 10 of the 11 good to great CEOs came from inside the company, whereas the comparison companies have tried over 6 times to get some celebrity person to come in and make a change. We found no systematic pattern linking specific forms of executive compensation to the process of going from good to great. The idea that the structure of executive compensation is a key driving corporate performance is simply not supported by the data. So basically saying that corporate executive compensation is not entirely correlated to how that executive actually works. At the end of the day, it's not really the money that's actually driving them. It's something deeper. Strategy per se did not separate the good to great companies from the comparison companies. Both sets of companies had well-defined strategies, and there's no evidence that the good to great companies spent more time on long-range strategic planning than the comparison companies. The good to great companies did not focus principally on what to do to become great. They focused equally on what not to do and what to stop doing. Technology and technology-driven change has virtually nothing to do with igniting a transformation from good to great. Technology can accelerate a transformation, but technology cannot cause a transformation. That's big. That's big. Mergers and acquisitions play virtually no role in igniting a transformation from good to great. Two big mediocrities joined together never make one great company. So two mediocre companies formed together don't make one great company. It just makes two bad things come together, which equals bad. The good to great companies paid scant attention to managing change, motivating people, or creating alignment. And under the right conditions, the problems of commitment, alignment, motivation, and change largely melt away. Paid scant attention. They paid scant attention to managing change. By the way, I just looked it up. Scant attention means very little. So basically they're saying that the good to great companies paid very little attention to managing change. The good to great companies had no name, tagline, launch event, or program to signify their transformations. And indeed, some reported being unaware of the magnitude of the transformation at the time. Only later, in retrospect, did it become clear. And yes, they produced a truly revolutionary leap in results, but not by a revolutionary process. The good to great companies were not by any large in great industries, and some were in terrible industries. In no case do we have a company that just happened to be sitting on the nose of a rocket when it took off. And greatness is not a function of circumstance. Greatness, it turns out, is largely a matter of conscious choice. Wow. Okay. Phase number 4, chaos to concept. I've tried to come up with a simple way to convey that what was acquired to go from all the data analysis, debates, and dogs that did not bark to the final findings of this book. And the best answer I can give is that it was an iterative process of looping back and forth, developing ideas and testing them against the data, revising the ideas, building a framework, seeing it break under the weight of evidence, and rebuilding it yet again. The process was repeated over and over and over until everything hung together in a coherent framework of concept. And we all have a strength or two in life. And I suppose that mine is the ability to take a lump of unorganized information, see patterns, and extract order from the mess, to go from chaos to concept. I love that. Chaos to concept. That said, however, I wish to underscore again what the concepts in the final framework are not my opinions. While I cannot extract my own psychology and biases entirely from the research, each finding in the final framework met a rigorous standard before the research team and would deem it significant. Every primary concept in the final framework showed up as what a change variable in the 100 of the good to great companies, and in less than 30% of the comparison companies during the pivotal years. And any insight that failed this test did not make it into the book as a chapter level concept. Here, then, is an overview of the framework of concepts and a preview of what to come in the rest of the book. Think of the transformation as a process of buildup followed by breakthrough, broken into 3 broad stages: disciplined people, disciplined thought, and disciplined action. And within each of these three stages, there are two key concepts shown in the framework and described below. Wrapping around this entire framework is a concept we came to call the flywheel, which captures the gestalt of the entire process of going from good to great. And this is the diagram, basically, of the 5 years of work. They've literally created a framework on how to go from good to great. And notice how good is just this line. It's stagnant. It's not moving. But then as soon as you hit the facts, confront the brutal facts, which is disciplined thought, that is where the breakthrough happens. When you're able to stay consistent and confront the brutal facts and build that discipline within, that is when you have this breakthrough that no one can take from you. Level 5 leadership. Level 5 leadership. We were surprised, shocked really, to discover that the type of leadership required for turning a good company into a great one. Compared to a high-profile leader with big personalities who make headlines and become celebrities, the good to great leaders seem to have come from Mars. Self-effacing, quiet, reserved, even shy. These leaders are a paradoxical blend of personal humility and professional will. They are more like Lincoln and Socrates than Peyton or Caesar. Ooh. First who, then what? We expect that good to great leaders would begin by setting a new vision and strategy. And we found instead that they first got the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and the right people in the right seats. Then they figured out where to drive it. The old adage, people are your most important asset, turns out to be wrong. People are not your most important asset. The right people are. That is so good. That is so good. Confront the brutal facts. You never lose faith. We learned that a former prisoner of war had more to teach us about what it takes to find a path to greatness than most books on corporate strategy. Every good to great company embraced what we like to call the Stockdale paradox. You must maintain unwavering faith that you can and will prevail in the end, regardless of the difficulties, and at the same time, have the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be. Here's the hedgehog concept, the simplicity within the three circles. To go from good to great requires transcending the curse of competence. To go from good to great requires transcending the curse of competence. Just because something is your core business, just because you've been doing it for years and perhaps even decades, it does not necessarily mean that you can be the best of the world at it. And if you cannot be the best in the world at your core business, then your core business absolutely cannot form the basis of your business, of a great company. Let me reread that for you. You cannot be the best in the world, okay, at your core business. Then your core business absolutely cannot form the basis of a great company. It must be replaced with a simple concept that reflects deep understanding of three intersecting circles, a culture of discipline. All companies have a culture. Some companies have discipline, but few companies have a culture of discipline. When you have disciplined people, you do not need hierarchy. When you have disciplined thought, you don't need bureaucracy. Oof, freaking love this. When you have disciplined action, you don't need excessive controls. When you combine a culture of discipline with an ethic of entrepreneurship, you get the magical alchemy of great performance. Oh my gosh. I freaking love this paragraph so much. It's all about disciplined culture of discipline. I love this. I'm literally putting a little heart in that particular paragraph because I love it. Technology accelerators. Good to great companies think differently about the role of technology. They never use technology as a primary means of igniting transformation, yet paradoxically, they are the pioneers in the application of carefully selected technology. We learned that the technology by itself is never a primary root cause of either greatness or decline. Here's a flywheel in the doom loop. Those who launch revolutions, dramatic change programs, and wrenching restructuring will almost certainly fail to make the leap from good to great. No matter how dramatic the end result, the good to great transformation never happened in one fell swoop. There was no single defining action, no grand program, no one color innovation, no solitary lucky break, no miracle moment. Rather, the process resembled relentlessly pushing a giant heavy flywheel in one direction, turn upon turn, building momentum until a point of breakthrough and beyond. Lord, wow. So freaking good. So good. From good to great to built to last. In an ironic twist, I now see good to great not as a sequel to Built to Last, but more of a prequel. This book is about how to turn a good organization into one that produces sustained results to results. Built to Last is about how you can take a company with great results and turn it into an enduring great company of iconic stature. To make that final shift requires core values and a purpose beyond just making money, combined with the key dynamic of perseverance, preserve the core to stimulate progress. To make the final shift requires core values and a purpose beyond just making money, combined with the key dynamic of preserve the core / stimulate the progress. So basically he's saying that this book, Good to Great, is pretty much read this book and then read Built to Last. Okay, once you understand what good to great means and how it works and what it is, and you're getting the results, then you go to Built to Last to just solidify the process. This is great. So he's saying good to great concepts go into sustain great results, which then you add in the Built to Last concepts, and then you get this enduring great company. This is so good. I freaking love this so much. If you are already a student of Built to Last, please set aside your questions about the precise links between the two studies as you embark upon the findings of good to great. And in the last chapter, I return to this question and link the two studies together. The timeless physics of good to great. Okay, and we're almost done here. We're almost done. This is literally the last chapter, the last subparagraph. I had just finished presenting my research to a set of internet executives gathered at a conference when a hand shot up. Will your findings continue to apply in the new economy? Don't we need to throw out all of the old ideas and start from scratch? It's a legitimate question, as we do live in a time of dramatic change, and it comes up so often that I'd like to dispense with it right up front before heading into the meat of the book. Yes, the world is changing and it will continue to do so, but that does not mean we should stop the search for timeless principles. Timeless principles. Think of this way. While the practices of engineering continuously evolve and change, the laws of physics remain relatively fixed. I like to think of our work as a search for timeless principles, the enduring physics of great organizations that will remain true and relevant no matter how the world changes around us. And yes, the specific applications will change, the engineering, for example, but certain immutable laws of organized human performance, the physics, will endure. Yeah. The truth is, there's nothing new about being in a new economy. Those who have faced the invention of electricity, the telephone, the automobile, the radio, or the transitor, did they feel it was any less of a new company, less of a new economy than we feel today? And in each rendition of each new economy, the best leaders have adhered to certain basic principles with rigor and discipline. Some people will point out that the scale and pace of change is greater today than any time in the past, and perhaps even so. Some of the companies in our Good to Great study face rates of change that rival anything in the new economy. For example, during the early 1980s, the banking industry was completely transformed in about 3 years. And as the full weight of deregulation came crashing down, it was certainly a new economy for the banking industry. And yet Wells Fargo applied every single finding in this book to produce great results, right smack in the middle of the fast-paced change triggered by deregulation. As you immerse yourself in the coming chapters, keep one key point in mind. This book is not about the old economy, nor is it about the new economy. It is not even about the companies that you're reading about, or even the business per se. It is ultimately about one thing: the timeless principles of good to great. It's about how you take a good organization and turn it into one that produces sustained great results, using whatever definition of results best applies to your organization. And this might come as a surprise, but I don't primarily think of my work as about the study of business, nor do I see this as a fundamentally of business book. Rather, I see my work as being about discovering what creates enduring great organizations of any type. And I'm curious to understand the fundamental differences between the good and the great, between excellent and mediocre. I just happen to use corporations as a means of getting inside the black box. I do this because publicly traded corporations, unlike any other types of organizations, have two huge advantages for research. They are a widely agreed upon definition of results, so we can rigorously select a study set, and a plethora of easily accessible data. The good is the enemy of great, is not just a business problem. It is a human problem. Oh, wow. Such a good line. If we have cracked the code on the question of good to great, we should have something of value to any type of organization. Good schools might become great schools. Good newspapers might become great newspapers. Good churches might become great churches. Good government agencies might become great agencies. And good companies might become great companies. So I invite you to join me on an intellectual adventure to discover what it takes to turn good into great. And I also encourage you to question and challenge what you learn. As one of my favorite professors once said, the best students are those who never quit and who never quite believe their professors. The best students are the ones who never quite believe their professors. True enough. But he also said that one ought not to reject the data merely because one does not like what the data implies. I offer everything herein for your thoughtful consideration, not blind acceptance, and you're the judge and the jury. So let the evidence speak. That was chapter 1, ladies and gentlemen. What a great start. I'm really pumped about this because I love when books can be so blunt. I love when books can be so direct. And I love when you can take a concept that's so friggin' grand, like good to great, and then you're able to break it down into a process. And then that process has sub-processes that you can dig deeper in, and then actually apply that into a real life experience, real life example, a real life business, a real life human. I love that. So I'm really, really excited to continue this book with you. Welcome to the last book of 2022, from good to great. And I'm freaking pumped. Okay, I hope you are too. I'll see you in the next Read With Me session. Have a blessed day ahead.